Let's set each other's lonely nights, be each other's paradise. Need a picture for my frame, someone to share my ring. Tell me what you wanna bring. I'll tell you what you got in mind. Oh, I don't know your name, but I feel that's so much change. You ain't gonna be right for you, oh baby. Never be young for no question. Ain't let each other go. Oh, go honey. Maybe we can be each other's own. Oh, company. It ain't about the complications. I'm all about the elevation. It can keep me going now. Oh, don't miss out on us. I wanna have a conversation. Forget about the complications. Maybe we can stay in touch. All that ain't too much. You ain't gonna be my love for you, only baby. Never be for no question. Ain't that serious? Can we be? You could tell the company, oh company, baby, we can be just company, oh company.
Dear colleagues, guests and participants, in 1 minute we will begin our session. If any of guests, please, if you wish, grab a chair, take a seat, and we will have more comfortable environment. Let's wait for another 2 minutes and we will begin. Thank you.
Уважаемые коллеги, я рад приветствовать вас на сессии «Цифровые
Dear
решения».
colleagues, welcome to the session called Digital Construction Industry between BIM Design and Cloud Services. My name is Vasily Sery, and I'm the Chief Executive Officer, the primary shareholder of Digital Engineering, and the member of the regional branch office of Business Russia organization. Here is what we would like to talk about, and including our speakers. The subject is digital solutions, as I said. Some
Информационного моделирования. Мы знаем, что было принято решение на уровне нашего президента о построению или введению единой цифровой информационной модели объектов капитального строительства на всем его жизненном пути. На уровне постановления правительства Российской Федерации, который сегодня будем тоже разбирать, 331, говорится о цифровой трансформации строительной отрасли. Мы знаем, как генеральные проектировщики используют BIM-технологии при разработке проектной и рабочей документации. Наши генподрядчики при строительстве объектов капитального строительства, линейных объектов, используют BIM-технологии. Все это должно объединиться и прийти к единой информационной модели, которая позволит нам более эффективно управлять реализацией инвестиционно-строительных проектов, добиваться соблюдения сроков, бюджетов, принимать оперативные решения, получать более эффективные как управленческие, так и технические решения. Значит, о чем бы я хотел попросить наших спикеров. Коллеги, мы очень ограничены во времени, потому что сначала мы планировали, что у нас будет порядка 6-7 выступающих. Сегодня у нас будет 13 спикеров, поэтому по времени сессия у нас рассчитана на 1,5 часа.
have 1 hour and a half for our discussion. Please, 5-7 minutes for a presentation, and please leave about 10 minutes for Q&A, for discussion. I would like to give the floor to Irina, the head of the Committee on Digital Transformation at the Ministry of Construction. Greetings, colleagues. On behalf of the National Union of Construction Workers, I would like to greet the Congress participants, and I would like to wish to make this framework permanent for the discussion of current affairs, development of construction, and digital transformation of construction industry. In my presentation, I would like to talk about implementation Decree 331, according to which the executors, the contractors, when they implement projects with public financing, they are obliged to use the information design model. We began to implement this instrument, and I would like to share results with my colleagues so that you could participate in the discussion of the issue. Do you see my screen okay? So, briefly, Decree 331 was adopted on the 1st of January 2022, and according to this decree, we are obliged to use digital design in permanent construction facilities. So in January 2022, we began to upload all the contracts to the digital model because it's a state level. So we found out that 90% of contracts were concluded without the requirement to use digital technologies. And we addressed the Ministry of Construction with this data. We attracted their attention, and we received an offer to monitor the situation on a permanent basis. For that purpose, we created a unified environment with the functionality of monitoring and machine learning. So this was the instruction of the Ministry of Construction, which we fulfilled. I would also like to draw your attention to the fact that from the point of view of legislation, in terms of digitalization, there has been amendments lately, and I would like to, I think the majority of you know, the decree 1431 was amended lately, and it was amended with the deadline and some requirements in terms of the order, in terms of roadmap and approval process, and 3D model of a capital construction facility is mandatory only in case when the client insists on that. So, but still, it is required to have a unified information model in which will include the whole life cycle of the facility. So the wow effect is if the client establishes this requirement, we treat it as a wow effect. There is also another decree which will come into force in 2023. The detailed documentation should be drawn in digital format, and we introduce tools to implement this digital transformation in construction industry. And what is important, that you can have detailed design documentation in digital format. It took about 2 or 3 years to develop GOST state standard, and please bear this in mind, and I think we will soon discuss the results of it. Let's get back to the results of implementation of Decree 331. As of September, this is the data about contracts which include digital modeling. First of all, only 51% of contracts go through the Ministry of Construction, and nevertheless, the problem is there are several of them actually. Not all the contracts which are supposed to include the requirement of digital, they're usually provided in the form of reporting documentation. Usually this happened at the municipal level. Usually there is no desire, there is no intention or motivation to include digital modeling at the municipal level. But then the situation improved. We had 56%. We're monitoring it on a regular basis, and we can take a list of the contracts and reporting documents for any region of the Russia. Here is what the platform looks like, digital platform. All the regions are registered, are logged in, and so these are the contracts which are implemented with or without digital modeling. So if there are requirements in terms of digital modeling, they are no exact. There is just a line which is very vague. Well, that's, I think, one of the problems of the clients. Usually they simply write that the digital documentation should follow law 1431, but they don't give details. And as a result, the designer understands that they see the way they understand it, and usually there is no requirement to pass through the experts board, and as a result we get very vague result. So we made here is some of the results of filter. So we have in total amount of contracts concluded according to Decree 331, 26 contracts. And I think the landscape is not very optimistic. And 22 out of 26, they don't contain the requirement for digital modeling. I think the result is not very good compared to other. I would like to draw your attention to this fact again, that we can provide a detailed review of each contract if you wish. So you can pay attention to this. Here is what the landscape looks like. In Russian Federation on the left, 41% of contracts do not contain the requirement to use digital modeling. So this is systematic work which the Ministry of Construction implements. And the regions, 11% here is what I already mentioned. The requirements are there, but they are not properly defined, properly identified. And so here the situation is absolutely not optimistic, and there is here room for improvement. You should pay attention to this. But we don't do monitoring for the sake of monitoring itself. We understand that here at the Union of Construction Industry, we understand that the contracts will be implemented, the buildings will be constructed. What worries us more is the final result, which the deliverables, which the design companies issue, what will happen in the construction site. And here I would like to draw your attention to the line fulfilled contracts. Out of 2,751, 62 contracts are suspended, 2,500 are being implemented, and 94 of the contracts are already completed. And here is the next stage. Here when the next stage comes, which worries us. So 94 contracts, at least 9 of them, 22 contain a requirement to use digital models, and so you can see the share in the total amount of contracts. 62 don't contain any requirement for digital modeling, and so digital transformation will not happen if we see a situation like this. And the problems appear at various stages. For example, at the stage of maintenance and operation. I would like to give a best practice also. In contrast, here is a contract which is completed. The design stage is completed, and it contains the requirement to use digital models. It's a contract implemented in Bashkortostan. It has quite strict requirements. And as you can see here, we may talk about the fact that the industry, road construction in particular, as the most advanced in our country from the point of view of digitalization. I think that even without decree, without 331, I think that this, I think road construction is very advanced area, and they use digitalization a lot. So this may serve as a model. The contract is completed. It hasn't passed through the tender, the bidding process as a capital construction facility, and this may be used to develop detailed design, as-built documentation. So since the deliverables were done digitally, I think that we will use this to teach other market members how to perform. The last but not least is I would like to draw your attention to the fact, yes, there are typical standard clauses in the contract. We made our proposal about which typical standard clauses should be included, and we propose to include in the general data the requirement for the use of software, BIM modeling, and a company should include on its staff personnel which can do digital design. And I would like to invite you, if your contracts don't contain this clause, and construction industry, digitalization is one of the strategic areas of the development of construction industry. So if you have these clauses, that's very good. This is it. Thank you very much for your attention, and I would like to answer your questions. Irina, thank you very much. The next speaker is
welcome Ingo Soft, who is responsible for the Russian Federation. Please speak. Can you hear me well? Excuse me for the extra sounds that will be on my background, because informational technology system model is highly required, and we have to travel all over the region, and now I'm at the airport. I'm not taking the participation very often because the topic really, we have to deal with it. So what about the building information model? I'll try to tell about the products and the requirements. First of all, I would like to pay your attention to the Russian company ENG Software that was created recently, but they are very highly experienced. And those companies such as Kona and 1S. So BIM solutions and engineering solution, they will give us good data about the buildings. And I heard the previous speaker that she said that government recently speaks frequently about the BIM. And sometimes technical projects are not really good. We personally create only one product, and we do modeling of the buildings, and we try to integrate with the other creators to execute the different varieties about the construction. The product itself that we call render was created fully in Russia. It allows
and so we have a number of developers. I would like to draw your attention that when you work with the 3D model, when you do that, it's important that designers they should work together in a unified digital space. This means that digital solutions will be correct. And this means that your bill of materials and cost estimate will be correct. And this, it's a very important position in terms of, it also saves, it cuts your costs also, to be sure. And joint operation within one model could be done in real-time mode. And we are now working on this mechanism. It's a far-reaching perspective. And the experts of the Fund of the Development of Information Technologies, they support it not verbally, but also with their actions. We already heard the magic words, the general common data environment. It's important that the designer and the contractors, they could have access to common data. And in our ASCON group, when we were trying to resolve the issues of 3D modeling, and this kind of environment is already implemented, and it proves its viability in various projects, in residential and industrial construction projects. And so the system is ready to work with big data. And I would like to give several cases which demonstrate how important it is to use 3D parametric, practically oriented models when making managerial decisions. The most interesting, in my opinion, case, although we say that in the regions the situation is not very optimistic in terms of introduction of digital modeling, but still we have some good examples, some best practices. For example, in Yakutia, with severe weather conditions, even some small size facilities which are created as part of the public order, they have some complexities, huge complexities. They have mistakes, they have faults in design. The material ordered, for example, will take, we have problems with logistics when it takes a lot of time to deliver materials and commodities to the construction site. In Saha, Yakutia, our colleagues, they made a test. They're quite highly experienced in the projects of the given size. In some of the projects, they just did the research. There is a project which was implemented in 2D, but then there was a need to assess if what happens if we build based on 2D models, what kind of challenges we may face. But then they created 3D models in the common data. They found collisions, they found clashes, and they counted money which they could have lost if they built based on paper-based drawings and deliverables. It was a not very big facility, for example, a sports center. It's a great illustration, the difference between digital modeling and old-fashioned paper-based drawings and other documents. And they share their experience. I think it's worthwhile getting to know their experience. So I highly recommend doing that. Please find them on the web. Another example, it's a commercial. It's not a state project, state-owned projects. So they used 3D models here, and it helped them to cut costs drastically especially for the client in terms of location of production facilities. It's also a very interesting example which should be taken into account. Please, I highly recommend using 3D. I have a colleague in Chernihiv city of Russia. He has no doubt already they didn't wait for any kind of pushing, or they didn't wait for the government to make them do something. They came up with the initiative themselves. They do some renovations. They have their own design bureau, and they do review, they do investigation on a permanent basis. Schools, kindergartens, and hospitals, they build them, they design them themselves, and they use building information models. Maybe they don't, not all the issues are resolved 100%, but still, they manage to avoid collisions and clashes, and they have already they proved many times that the models help them in a preventive manner to avoid losses and cut costs and procurement of materials, mistakes in procurements and failures. We have quite huge experience in the regions. For example, in Voronezh, when residential buildings were constructed for people who live in bad accommodation conditions, at the level of the regional administration didn't impose any requirements to use information models. So they don't take into account. They send projects to the expertise, and they work with 2D documentation. They don't do 3D, but usually they use 3D models anyway, just for troubleshooting and to avoid mistakes. There are other stories in the Urals, for example. Again, this was the public order in Chelyabinsk. They are quite active there in terms of implementation of the projects of this kind. Schools, kindergartens they had on their reference list. And how to understand. They took previous 2D paper-based, then they made 3D, they compared how many mistakes they have, how many faults, how many clashes. The designers, experienced designers with good qualification, but the technology itself of 2D modeling, it contains risks. Even if your 2D documentation is good, if it's high quality, the risks are still very high to have clashes, to have faults. Some other regions have also been very active, both in residential, hospitals. For example, this is the borderline control center checkpoint, which was also a public project, state project. This is in Amur region. So I would like to use this opportunity and invite you to visit Leningrad region, territory outside St. Petersburg. This company, it builds entertainment centers in Karelia region, and there are some spots on the map they invite. It's very interesting and very picturesque. And irrespective of the fact that these are small size facilities, but they use 3D models. Thank you very much, but I'm afraid we're pressed for time. Please sum up. And yes, just my last thought. I think we have all the contacts. If you allow just one thought, one idea, that tools are tools, of course, but the most important thing is to use them carefully, understanding the tasks and goals you have in front of you. And we are ready to help regional companies to develop typical requirements for the contracts, the typical clauses, advising and making the contract parties to use digitalization. We're ready to help our colleagues from Ascona group of companies. We already help other companies in the regions. So please come up. We have Ascona Ufa branch office, and you can please contact them and they will help you. Again, thank you very much for your presentation. Vladimir Gorbachev, the Deputy Director of the Republican Construction Center, Municipal Construction Center. Dear colleagues,
that was highly developed in Republic of, first of all, territorial system that covers all the investment process, and the constructors mostly. We know that it takes the fifth in the federal rate in frame of such a region, and we can make the process faster. A couple of agglomerations on the Republic territory that exist, and the investment process at those regions are very high. Mostly on the territory and the underground, complex analysis and of the resources, different resources on the territory, giving services in the construction, rating the, most importantly, that any region does very good. We call it such a smart city, and without okay, next slide. If we can try to imagine the circle shortly of the construction, so you can see the arrow. It shows all the chain. At the corner of the slide, that brick-colored checks, gives territorial planning and planning of the territory. There are no objects yet, but we're thinking where they can appear. The process is very difficult. It's very hard. That's why at this stage we try to minimize them. We know that there are construction workers around here sitting around us, and the projects they give the permission and the different documentations of the engineering network and different decisions and etc. And then after we do the exploitation and the rates of those projects to see the taxation. So they rent those municipal buildings. And our task is to automate maximally this whole process. So the next slide. Here you can see, for example, a territory, and you can see the territory by this object, and you can see the territory behind this object. And in reality, there are much more of them. There's engineering structures, storage objects, cultural objects, and a lot of different things. And underground, you can see all the geology that is discovered underground. The territory of Republic, we know it. We know almost everything. We know that a lot of functional objects are placed in the cities, and we can evaluate the capital buildings, big buildings. And we will talk about all different systems followingly. Here at this slide, you can see the idea that you can see the objects that can be evaluated, and we can plan to see where to set those objects. And the investment department can help to pick up the investment territory, and it allows us to evaluate it. So this approximate estimation gives the information to the constructors, and that's why we try to avoid some mistakes in construction sphere. This is the analytics. This scheme, I can say shortly, briefly. The whole model itself gives the information. For example, ninth object. The upper 5 is the computer evaluation, and as I mentioned previously, it has more than 5 million objects. And we try to create the system must be evaluated, and there is that is good for the, and we can account it as a general planning, and we try to get there. Next slide. This is the territory system. This is the lowest level, that is municipal, and those where constructors work. And the next one is a geo-informational system of the whole municipal systems of the Republic. besides some other that next under the United Geo informational system, there's a informational system. There's different maps. This municipal system is one of the biggest, and it goes to almost every other systems. Besides, there are a lot of different tasks to be done. The next one is state cadastral valuation of other different objects. And the advantages of these ministries, there are communities that task is to rule those systems. There are a lot of different information that need to be posted on the internet, and that system is one of the biggest in Russian Federation. And this municipal subject is one of the biggest in Russia, and this one is like the simplest variant. The next slide is all systems are centralized and placed at the server of the Republic of Bashkortostan, and it's highly secured. And we can see that more than 1,000 users are already here. These are a lot of different maps, and we will not talk about them. What, for example, you can see the different territories that are shown on these maps. Ufa is the leader with the informational vector. The next slide. You can see it as an example here. This is the pride of Ufa. This is the permission for the construction that is created automatically and it can be taken into exploitation. And we missed one of our slides with the information. These systems are very big and it's really hard to name all of them. Some of these projects will be on the next year, and you can see that digitally, and they provide different services. And for the next year, they will be fully implemented and launched. That's it. My report is ended. Excuse me, probably we're going to have some questions, but at the end of the session, maybe after coffee, maybe after the coffee break. Thank you very much. The next participant is Arhamzal. Please welcome. Hello. Sorry if I will not speak in English. I have a person here who will help me to translate if I'll start speaking in my native language.
Hello. Who am I? First of all, my name is Korhan Ozak. I'm a geotechnical doctor.
Меня зовут Кархан Азап. Я технический доктор в российской компании. Работаю.
We had here a Turkish representative company, and since 2 years we are presently here as a Russian company.
Добрый день, меня зовут Кархан Азал, я являюсь учредителем компании ENG Engineering, которая осуществляет комплексное проектирование объектов различного значения. Мы работаем уже на протяжении 10 лет в России, и в том числе как и в Республике Башкортостан, так и в других регионах.
I want to speak today about modern geotechnical modeling and its relationship with BIM technology.
Я хотел сейчас обсудить современные тенденции по проектированию BIM-моделей при совместном проектировании геотехнических вопросов и структурного анализа.
As you know, building information modeling is a information sharing system which has been built up where each stakeholders, each participant of the project can see on the model the results of its effect and can also see the result of the other specialists who are working on the same model. And geotechnical design is a part of this modeling. Is one of the main parts of the structural modeling in construction field.
Я немножко чуть покороче. Я думаю, что никому не нужно объяснять, какую важную задачу сейчас и какую важную роль являет BIM-проектирование, но мы хотели бы уделить внимание разделу геотехники, каким образом включать в эту систему именно расчеты, связанные с геотехникой.
No, as you know, in many literative documents, it is stated that building information modeling is not a software, and I think it's more a multidisciplinary engineering language.
В принципе, существует огромное количество различных программ для выполнения данных задач, и владение ими — это как владение языками. То есть очень важно, это именно инструмент, которым нужно правильно пользоваться.
In the beginning of 1970s, it has been started with the first three-dimensional modeling, and nowadays it is increasing these dimensions. This is one of the graphics which shows 7. There are, when you search, make a research, you see 8-dimensional, 9-dimensional prognosis of BIM modeling.
В зависимости от задачи в систему проектирования можно включать дополнительные задачи, которые будут увеличивать уровень ответственности и уровень проектирования, например, как динамические задачи и задачи другого назначения.
Today, actually, in our field, especially when we get the structural model and adapt it to geotechnical development, we are already modeling the steps of construction, which is already the 4th dimension.
На данный момент, выполняя задачи, связанные с геотехникой, очень важно иметь в виду, что необходимо учитывать процесс строительства, потому что они также оказывают большое влияние на работу конструкций, которые будут возведены.
And as a next step, when we are on the field, monitoring our design structure.
Также выполнение мониторинга за выполнением конструкциями.
And adapt the monitoring results to our design. It's already the 5th dimension.
И также очень важно добавлять информацию, получаемую в процессе мониторинга за строительными конструкциями, в процессе строительства, которые также можно учитывать при моделировании.
I think with these 4th and 5th dimension steps, especially deep excavations, big deep excavations or long tunnels have now a much more optimized design than 20 years before.
Такие шаги, то есть добавление информации, которая получается в процессе строительства, в процессе мониторинга, очень важна и помогает оптимизировать технические решения намного лучше, чем это было 10-20 лет назад.
Most of the feedbacks that we get from monitoring are making us able to change the initial data that we have used in the
Получение исходных данных в процессе выполнения строительства в качестве мониторинга помогают оптимизировать технические решения для дальнейшего выполнения конструкций.
Especially when we speak about the BIM integration in geotechnical field, I don't think that is enough developed today.
Разговаривая про в принципе систему проектирования, на данный момент это недостаточно проработано.
Because in principle, when you get the site investigation data, you have the 2-dimensional version of it. You have local site investigation boring results, and you have to develop 2-dimensional profile.
Интегрируя результаты, которые получаются путем изысканий, они не всегда достоверны с точки зрения двухмерной и трехмерной постановки задачи, потому что в зависимости от того, откуда взяты данные с объемной модели или с плоской, результаты имеют иногда различные, результаты различаются.
On the contrary to the structural field, unfortunately, we as the people who are working with the earth, we are forced to give the input manually. All inputs in our model is manual.
В те данные, которые вводятся в модель, они получаются либо путем изысканий, либо в процессе строительства, то есть в процессе мониторинга те данные, которые получаем, они также добавляются в модели, в связи с чем выполняются корректировки.
In the recent years, we were able to adopt these two-dimensional profiles, as you've seen in the presentation. One example, three-dimensional profiles with help like software, Skin Professional or other geological softwares which are working already on 3D platform.
1 second. Can you... На данный момент мы довольно активно интегрируем все данные, которые получаются путем изыскания в наши 3D-модели. Таким образом, это оптимизирует технические решения.
And we have additional instruments now, modern instruments. One of them is, this is an example here in Ufa. We are the consultants of the tunnel here.
Мы используем большой объем различного оборудования, в том числе, например, как показано на слайде, это геосканер, который активно используется при строительстве тоннеля в городе Уфа.
We are able to integrate the local investigation data and to scan the profile in between and to adapt it in a three-dimensional model.
Мы готовы и активно используем результаты сканирования для моделирования дальнейших условий строительства данного объекта.
This was one of the scannings that we did during our monitoring work here in tunnel, and we were able to go through, with the feedbacks, we were able to go through all the profiles and to remodel the tunnel in three-dimensional format.
Здесь показан результат геотехнического сканирования и построения объемной модели для понимания геологических условий будущего строительства, на основании которых выполняется моделирование будущих конструкций для уточнения для уточнения параметров крепления и для проверки безопасности.
And during the construction, as it is expected in any tunnel construction, there were a lot of changes done, and each step and each changes we were able to model in the, let's say, in the four-dimensional format where we changed completely progress of the construction from study pad.
На данный момент в связи с таким подходом было внесено большое количество уточнений и оптимизаций, которые помогают ускорить строительство именно в процессе строительства за счет получения вот этих данных. Да, мы, наверное, покажем примеры просто.
So I want to just give short examples. I have to make it short. This is also a Revit model of the Voronezh airport that we were designing. Our structural team prepared the Revit model. We adapted to three-dimensional Revit to Plaxis. The excavation and the structural foundations we were able to model.
На примере аэропорта в Уфе видно Воронеже, извиняюсь. Была поставлена задача с целью оптимизации фундаментов и путем объемного моделирования, а также задания процесса строительства мы изменили конструкцию фундамента, что ускорило сроки строительства и обеспечило подрядчику меньший объем работы.
And the final one. This is an example in Moscow. It's the Khmetovo plant.
А это пример более сложного объекта. Это завод по мусоросжиганию в городе Москва, Московской области.
We canceled foundation piles on a part of the building.
Мы за счет моделирования изменили тоже структуру фундамента и отменили свайные основания, которые считали, что оно там не нужно, и в дальнейшем реализовали этот проект.
And together with NITSTA, we were forced to model the whole building in the geotechnical softwares.
И совместно с национализацией в двух различных расчетных программах было смоделировано целиком здание и совместная работа с грунтами, что за счет чего как бы и позволило доказать, что наше предложение реализуемо.
Thank you very much for your patience.
Спасибо большое.
Коллеги, спасибо большое. Слово предоставляется Павлу Викторовичу Солечкину, основному акционеру компании Офис-группа инженеров.
Коллеги, включить? Все есть. Коллеги, всех приветствую. Меня зовут Семочкин Павел. На прошлой неделе в Москве прошел форум изыскателей, где обсуждались ряд проблем отрасли и все, что касается цифровизации отрасли. Я бы хотел сегодня на этом мероприятии подсветить одну из проблем, которая активно обсуждалась, и то цифровое решение, которое предлагаем мы, которое сейчас активно реализуем для решения этой проблемы. Итак, начнем. Меня зовут Семочкин Павел. Я учредитель изыскательской компании «Гектар Групп», также возглавляю проектно-строительный клуб «Деловой России». И у нас одно из самых крупных телеграм-сообществ в теме проектирования и изыскания «Пир на весь мир». В основном в современном мире вклад в цифровизацию изыскания вносит создание цифровых моделей мест, так называемых. И действительно, они имеют большую практическую, так сказать, пользу в реализации технологий информационного моделирования. В части 3D-геологии есть определенные проблемы. Но вот коллега передо мной, Кархан, как раз у них большие наработки в этой отрасли есть. Я не буду останавливаться. Да, действительно, это сейчас работает на благо строительства. Но в России есть определенная особенность в изысканиях. Есть такая статистика, вот здесь на экране цифра 300 миллиардов рублей. Это ежегодный перерасход стройки из-за ошибок в недостоверных данных инженерных изысканий. Удивительно, но именно исходные данные максимально влияют на стоимость строительства и его безопасность. Подчеркну здесь, что не проектное решение. Если нет исходных данных, которые действительно соответствуют всему, то как бы качественно вы не проектировали при строительстве, вы столкнетесь с увеличением стоимости и со сдвигом сроков права. Но в чем же тогда ценность изысканий? Наша компания покопалась в этом вопросе, да, и мы для себя определили, что ценный конечный продукт изыскания – это предоставлять достоверные данные об окружающей среде, которые позволяют принять правильные проектные оптимальные решения. И тут надо уточнить, что же понимается под оптимальными проектными решениями в контексте изысканий. Ну, первое – это минимальное воздействие на окружающую среду проектируемого объекта, техногенного воздействия. Второе – это безопасность строительства и его эксплуатацию. И третье, конечно же, это экономическая эффективность строительства и эксплуатации. Но какая проблема? Заказчики не готовы платить за ценный конечный продукт изыскателей. Здесь причем проблема и на государственном уровне. Допустим, в Москве, я приведу пример, есть такой коэффициент в Мосгосэкспертизе 0,59. То есть все изыскания, которые выходят экспертизы, смета на изыскание, умножается на 0,59. Далее есть еще коэффициенты заказчика, так называемые изыскания, где он, как правило, получает свои генподрядные. Часто эта цифра, этот коэффициент равен 0,7. Я тоже говорю не облачные цифры, это на примере крупных девелоперских компаний, которые примерно по такой логике работают. В итоге смета на изыскание, которая должна была, казалось бы, стоить 10 миллионов, она режется до 4 миллионов в среднем. Так оно работает на рынке Москвы и, в принципе, по России. Почему, собственно, заказчики не готовы платить за ценный конечный продукт изысканий? Ну, тут две проблемы. Первое, то, что фактически заказчик изысканий не является конечным пользователем этих изысканий. Конечным пользователем ценного конечного продукта изыскания в том же самом девелопменте будет покупатель жилья или управляющая компания, которая эксплуатирует данное здание. Но и другая проблема. Там, где все-таки мы работаем с заказчиком, который является пользователем ценного конечного продукта изыскания, как правило, их специалисты не совсем понимают причинно-следственную связь и не понимают, в чем же ценность изысканий. За последние 30 лет сформировался рыночный запрос. Было сформировано мнение, что изыскание не используется при проектировании, что изыскание необходимо делать как можно быстрее, что изыскание необходимо только для прохождения экспертизы и получения разрешения на строительство. Это все запустило следующее. Произошла деградация производства изысканий. Такой запрос формировал затягивающуюся петлю неспадающей стоимости. Ну, поскольку потеряна ценность, зачем же платить больше? В данном случае цифровизацией мы предлагаем решить эти проблемы. Сейчас мы как раз работаем над такой платформой, где не создаются 3D-модели в изысканиях, а где контролируется исполнение этих работ. Ну что здесь? Это 100%.
So what here is a 100 digital control using those technologies. The second one is a fully forbidency of the third is the evaluation of all the expert rates restrictions, yes. And some of the technologies are implemented in afterward that could change the source, that could make a very big change in the source data. Colleagues, that's all I have to say. Thank you for the attention. There are contacts, and I will be happy to talk to everyone. Thank you very much, and thank you for the reglement, for the timing. So the next will be
our next speaker. Please welcome our next speaker. Greetings. Let's give the floor to Rinat Kildibayev. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. I will talk about the use of advanced digital technologies and how to make a business information model. Currently, there are several areas of development, industrialization, but that's already in the past. Also, analytical models, computational models, digital twins, and the future which is here is digitalization, machine learning, neural networks, going from analytical to numerical modeling, and digital industrialization and automatic design. As exemplified from our cases, here you can see numerical modeling of operation of composite materials. We used BIM. We did that for British Petroleum, which acted as a client. And there were some assumptions. We also included pre-stressed reinforcement. And all of our assumptions were proven by the deliverables which we issued. So here, modeling. Sorry. We have some technical issue. I need to go back a little bit. A couple of slides backwards. So this is how we did stress tests of concrete structures. We did that in a lab. And so we reviewed the data and also did some modeling. Numerical modeling of composites. So here you can see the linear facilities, and we defined the bearing capacity and deformations under pressing conditions, aerodynamics and hydro-gas dynamics. These are standards tasks we need to resolve when designing construction buildings. And we saw some non-typical fluctuations of because of non-typical form and air flows, air paths. Also aerodynamic galloping, that's something that we managed to avoid. We did some amendments to the facade to avoid this kind of phenomena. This is an example of hydro-gas dynamics. This is a collector. This is a manifold of a turbine. Our client was Witzenman company. We tried to find the most optimal shape of the node by picking various geotechniques now. And so the influence of how the new project influences the existing ones, that's what we did. Influence on the surrounding environment. Here you can see how a building works in confined, in dense, um, so you can see how the piles work, how they influence, the red color is the influence of the new building on the existing ones, assessment of new engineering in the industrial area. This is how we solve it. Also, a reduction of plastic characteristics of soil. This is how we can model the possible loss of stability of buildings, and this allows us to obtain more correct data, and these are the methods that we use. For Nornickel company, we tested some bases and distribution of heat waves, heat spaces, thermal spaces, how, and this helped us to modify, to amend the existing projects. And so altogether, this kind of factors allowed us to fulfill the most stringent current requirements. Industrial electronics now, that is something that is quite vital and up to date. So we received feedback in terms of BIM modeling. So here you can see temperature sensors. We studied isothermal effect of concrete structures, and when the concrete obtains its strength, that's where we use those sensors. They work online in city mesh. The external temperature was controlled with thermal visors, and the use of digital sensors helps to control the process of maturing of concrete structures. And thanks to the difference in thermal load. This is how we did the control. We installed the sensors on the foundation, and the feedback we received through a special application based on Android in online mode, so you can see what actually happens with reinforced concrete structures. So the sensors gave us data which we used for decision making, for further decision making. Neural networks now, neural network interfaces. As of now, we develop algorithms to reduce noise, and we receive more precise clouds of dots, of spots, which we use further in design. Here you can see how it happens. Here is the logic. Then I would like to say that where we have erosion of soil, we can also control erosion of soil, and we analyze. We pick a cloud, as we call it, a cloud of dots, a cloud of points, and we monitor them. And we see how the relief changes under the erosion, the changes of landscape under erosion processes. And we use LiDAR systems to do the footage. They allow us to penetrate through vegetation. So vegetation is not an obstacle for us. And we control the surface profile of the land by monitoring those dots, and we see the changes, we see the share. So another thing that we do, we can assess the bearing capacity. This is used by Emercom and other emergency services. Here we use the self fluctuations of the structure. We analyze them, and you can see the graphs. So we analyze the frequencies based on the size of buildings, and our product is very much similar to the top analogs of the industry, top ranking analog, and we can find out emergencies and propose measures to remove them. In our sensors we use more sensible optic sensors with with high precision, and so it's like a laser level, and then we register the results on the matrix, and by the deviations of the beam we can see deformations of the building. So these are the sensors that we install. Except for that, as of now, we develop and introduce non-destructive testing methods as a distributed mesh of sensors which register the information along the perimeter of the building. We install the sensors, and they synchronize with each other, and between themselves we start an algorithm how to reduce noise, and we make a hit with pyro charge, and by the fluctuations, by the disturbances, we control rise and attenuation and the intensification, and that's how we do this. Yes, we have. Unfortunately, we are pressed for time. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your presentation. Dear colleagues, while the next speaker prepares, I would like to say Tabib Dagashan. I would like to give the floor to Tabib Dagashan, our next speaker.
While the presentation is loading, I want to say briefly, colleagues, we are now discussing very important process about the construction industry. And we know that according to the last informational model is our participants about the systemical territories that was discussed, and the implementation of the different technologies. But one of the biggest process, we have the four of them, is the customer, the projector, and the general people. And this organization is the one organization that has to examine all the process according to the surveys, and those surveys of the soil must be done. And these are the main players on the market, and we need to unite all this information. And the information that is given by our colleagues, we can see that how much power goes into organizing, surveying, implementing of these projects, the monitoring of those process. But our main task is that we are united, that we are the one, that all the information that is given right now, it has to be implemented, and I wanted to play a key role that will allow us to follow the timing and the process of the constructional process. Again, I'm giving word to Talib Dagashan.
İyi günler, herkese merhabalar diliyorum. Ben Eyva Gayrimenkul Yönetim Kurulu Başkanı Talip Dağaşan. Buraya Başkortostan Cumhuriyeti İstanbul temsilcisi Sayın Marat Bey'in davetiyle geldim. Kendisine buradan teşekkürlerimi sunuyorum.
Добрый день, уважаемые участники и гости.
Good day, dear guests and My name is Talib Tagashan. I'm the chairman of the board of the EVA Human Code, and I would like to say thank you to Mr. Marat Suzin for the representative in Istanbul that invited us for this event.
çalışıyoruz. Bünyemizde bulunan mimarlar, mühendisler, iç mimarlar bulunmaktadır. Biz bu disiplinlerle hep birlikte çalışıyoruz.
Объединение усилий проектировщиков, дизайнеров и
We are the union of the designers and projectors that allow us to create some of the very interesting buildings.
Mimarlık ve mühendislik tasarımları, proje yönetimi, inşaat yönetimi ve danışmanlık hizmetlerinden oluşmaktadır.
Сегодня мы оказываем услуги
Today, we're providing our services in the engineering field
непосредственно строительства и
and consulting and the project management.
Bu çalışmaları master planların hazırlanması, mimari tasarımın hazırlanması, inşaat mühendisliği projelerinin hazırlanması, mekanik elektrik mühendisliği projelerinin hazırlanması, altyapı projelerinin hazırlanması ve BİM yönetimiyle hepsinin bir araya getirilmesidir.
мы в своей работе
In
используем
our org, we use the technologies that are called BIM,
вместе все составы
and we do all those different parts of projecting like one.
Şimdi sizlere BİM teknolojiyle ilgili birkaç şey anlatmaya çalışacağım.
хочу донести до вашего сведения.
I want to give some of you information about the BIM control.
Altyapı veya üst yapı projesi birçok disiplinin bir araya gelmesiyle
The-
oluşur. Bu disiplinler biraz önce de söylemiş olduğum mühendislikler, iç mimarlar, mimarlar, iş güvenliği uzmanları ve hesap uzmanlarının hepsinden oluşmaktadır.
BIM управление или же
BIM, or the modeling or projecting of all other parts, allow us to avoid issues or mistakes and shorten time and expenses.
Biz bu çalışmaların hepsini yaparken bir platform halinde Revit programına, Autodesk ürünü olan Revit'i kullanıyoruz.
при программное обеспечение используем в
The
работе
software that is used in our work is Revit.
Burada bu sürecin nasıl başladığı ve nasıl sonuçlandığını anlatan ufak bir örnek görüyorsunuz.
данный слайд
This slide can allow us to understand the process
весь процесс
of building information on any building.
Bizler bir yapının bütün yönleriyle sadece onun 3 boyutlu modellemesi değil, cephe tasarımları, kat planları ve bütün detaylarıyla bunların hepsini BİM içerisinde bütünleştiriyoruz.
то есть программа BIM управления позволяет
So BIM software allows us to unite and
скажем так, решения
all the different solutions that different designers, project managers, and constructors, and all they can work as one. And our software allows us to unite all those results of their
Ve
work.
çalışmanın sonunda elimizde bu projeyle alakalı olarak bütün datayı arşivleyebiliyoruz.
результатом работы
The result of the work in this system,
BIM управления
the BIM management, we receive the result that can be saved, archived, sent all from the beginning and to the end, starting with the roof and ending with the nail. And we can see
Burada bir binanın
the schedule at what time all the work has to be done, the deadline. This is the example of one floor building.
ve biz bu bütün çalışmaları yaparken tamamının datasını tek bir dosya üzerinden çok rahat bir bütün mühendislik çalışmaları ve finansal dokümanları ve kullanılacak bütün malzeme listesine kadar tamamını tek bir dosya üzerinde inceleme imkanı sağlıyor.
Таким образом, это позволяет
So it allows us to receive information that has been united,
найти для себя все, что нужно.
and
Начиная от
and it will give the information on the volume of the materials and all different information in one file.
İnşaat sektörü yararlanmıyor. Bundan birçok yapı da yararlanabilir. Çünkü birçok teknolojiyi bir araya getirerek kullanma imkanı bize sağlıyor. Bundan dolayı da birçok meslek grubu bunu çok rahat kendi işlerinde, projelerinde kullanabilirler.
на сегодняшний день эта
Today, this technology is using not only construction field, but in different fields as well.
Burada yapmış olduğumuz bazı çalışmalardan örnekler görebilirsiniz.
некоторые примеры наших
So these are some of the examples of our work.
Özellikle mekanik ve elektrik ve inşaat mühendisliği projelerinin birbirine engel olmadan nasıl daha verimli bir şekilde uygulanabileceğini çok rahat görüyoruz.
То есть данная программа
So this program allows us to use engineering decisions more rationally in some buildings.
в конечном итоге получилось получить
So at the end, we can use the most optimal usage of these materials.
Bizler öncelikle yatırımcılar zaman ve maliyet açısından daha kontrol edilebilir bir yatırım programı başlatırlar.
если подводить итог
So if we would like to underline and make some decisions on my short words, the first thing is, first of all, investors are highly interested in those decisions because they can evaluate before the start of the construction with the maximum precise. They can count the price, the range of materials that needs to be used. The suppliers will have very clear information for themselves, so they can schedule the supply deliveries.
Minimum hatayla iş yaparlar.
Subcontractors with the minimum mistakes will do their part of the work.
Bir çalışma yapmış olurlar.
And architects allowed to receive the whole
Siz dinlediğiniz için
process control. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the.
I'd like to give the floor to one of the founders of Procurator company and also an expert. Greetings. As Vasily just said, my name is Igor Shirokovich, and I'm the BIM expert of company Konkurator. I would like to give a couple of words as an introduction. Konkurator is a Russian-based company. It's a leader in BIM technologies implementation. I'm a friend and I'm also an enemy. I'm combating in this sphere since 2002. The company was established 7 years ago, and we wrote the first BIM standard in terms of information modeling. Except for this very first standard, this guideline, we also developed several more standards. You can see them here in the slide. It's a standard for BIM in infrastructural facilities, industrial facilities. So these are the spheres this standard applies. We also developed several SP standards, references 328, 333, 404, which are the state standards. We also developed methodical guidelines, how to use those SPs. Concurator is a member of a group of companies called Integrica, and the CEO of Sergey Chernyaev, a CEO of Concurator. We possess BIM technologies. We act as integrators, as we do automations in construction. Sergey Chernyaev has rich experience managing this kind of projects. And but my task is to familiarize you with one of our software. It's called Bexel Manager. The software itself, it was developed by Bexel Consulting. It's a Serbia-based company. And that's why in the name that's why I mentioned sanctions, because I hope I am both Russian and Serbian, that Serbia will never introduce any sanctions against Russia, that we will always be friends. Bexel Manager is available in Russia, and through our company you can purchase it. And then further in my presentation, I will additionally tell more about the product. But Bexel Manager won an award in a competition, Building Smart, as one of the most innovational solution in terms of construction management in 2020. So in this slide, you can see the ecosystem of Bexel Manager. And Bexel Manager feels comfortable in the given ecosystem. So these are all the software that Bexel Manager interacts with. Previous speakers already said, but I would like to repeat that information model without 3D model has no weight as with 3D model, because if we look at BIM as design, as 3D design, it means with such a model in hands, we can see all the errors, all the failures, which are, as a rule, not possible to see looking at plans, layouts, and cross sections, meaning 2D, two-dimensional documents. Bexel Manager can receive information model using several ways. On top, you can see on the left, these are the products, which we call them heavy beam. It's a jargon, it's a slang word. They are very expensive, and which are used in the sphere of oil and gas. And these products, they don't have direct access to Bexel Manager, but Bexel Manager can work with ANSI formats and also use Navisworks as the intermediate stage. So anyway, we can receive information model from the given software. The next way to obtain is directly through ANSI. All the BIM tools, they should support AFC, at least exporting and importing. Of course, that's the best option. And it's the direct way from Revit by using a special plugin, and by doing so, we receive the format with Excel Manager can process. So all the construction industry is encompassed, And here we can see some of the capabilities, some of almost all the functionality of the software Bexel Manager. So I am ready to discuss all those functions in particular. If you wish, please come up to me. And integration and checking BIM data, data check, verification, cost assessment, planning. And in the next slide, we will see that in more detail, the main cream of the cream of the product. It's a intellectual network planning system. The Bexel Manager has such things as areas and methodologies. And by doing so, we create almost practical algorithm, which a practical construction algorithm. With that in hand, we are able to just with one or two clicks, we can build a calendar graph chart and then optimize it, kind of a Gantt chart. This is the last slide, which with all lately we developed two new products. One of them is called Bexel Viewer, and the second one is Bexel Portfolio Manager. Both of them are cloud-based. In other words, now Bexel can, with any mobile device, you can receive information from the digital model, and Bexel Portfolio Manager is able to unite data and analyze them from various projects which are tracked through Bexel Manager, which were done in Bexel Manager. Yes, this is it. If you have any questions, I'm ready to answer them. Our next presentation, Anatoly Korol, the Manager for Development of Digital Trade Platform.
Я расскажу немножко о другом направлении цифровизации, а именно о направлении, наверное, управления бизнес-процессами, в частности, в строительных компаниях.
Control of the business projects in another field. I will say about the advantages and disadvantages of these systems. For today, if we can take into consideration the system of buying, purchasing, for a very long time, the system, the companies, but before the pandemic, and the digitalization of the companies took the main way. Different conferences. If we take the construction field, there are three ways that are used: is their own research, or using the ready software, or using the cloud services. And I will tell you about the electronic fields. A lot of companies probably is asking about researching and finding for a good supplier to perform some of their construction work. And the service of the cloud purchasing will try to give you some additional ways to check and gives a better efficiency. And from our experience, we can see that the 17% is the average number in electronic. One of the key elements of the work of our development is a complex of the software development, and we developed a lot of mechanisms that we also share with different other constructors. to work and giving the maximum efficiency in purchase. We are totally Russian. We're licensed, and that gives a warranty in our work. And I would like to say in the end, I'm not gonna stop on the whole presentations due to the schedule of the speech. Today, we have a very big challenge. One of the challenges are after the pandemic is that the constructors lost a considerable amount of foreign workers, and today's supplies are not very good, and today we mostly pay attention to the supplies, and now constructors are now aimed to the active participation, cooperation with the Belarus and different countries. And those companies come to us and they suggest some other solutions for the work. But I know that digitalization is probably one of the biggest and the common branches in the field of construction. But it is very necessary not to forget about the control of all these processes. And we pay very big attention for this. But of course, if you have some more questions, I will be very happy to answer. Okay, thank you very much. Our next speaker, we will give it to Ivan Zhigorev. All right, I would like to thank everyone, the organizers, with the applause, because we sit it for a long time and we have to make a little training. I'm the CEO of the IT lab, Real TV. I will not speak about the BIM technologies, but we will, and as with the story about the projecting and the data analysis, today when we have like very high rate of the blindness in the economy, these ways probably will be more efficient for our work and will not hard to be for the realization. In short, our company are IT, and our roots goes to with the developers and the consulting companies. We work more than 20 years. That's why they decided to develop those solutions and give the future for the work. And those works help today for the developers to make decisions. We are on the market since 2016. We work in 31 different regions, including the Republic of Bashkortostan, and we have more than 260 plus clients, developers, banks, and consulting companies. I will not stop on them. So what other solutions we do with our company? Thanks to us, developer can do the can rate the potential of the investments and see the self-educate work and understand the location and understand will his project will be attractive for others. And of course, he can evaluate the market itself to see the competitors, and all of this on the project of before the project comes out. And also can the financials can be examined, and these will be useful to be done before the implementation of the project. So why the BNMAP platform? Because today it's the unique bank, data bank in the Russian Federation, and a lot of sources are united to the one format. So we analyze those data, and we make it richer, and we make some corrections into them, and it all has one united format. Since and the historical depth of the data goes in to 2016, and you'll be able to see the data according to all the deals in the whole market, which are 31 regions of Russian Federation. So the data source, there are 4 public that has been gathered automatically, and there are information on the discounts and different some project declarations, secret buyers, and some information from the Ross register. So what is the comfort and our personalization of our project? You can work at any point of the world at any time. And for example, we can go to sleep, you can go to sleep, and we will act together and work together. That would be pretty useful. And if you like that, you are fully welcome. We would like to fulfill your requirements, and we would already created a lot of forums and a lot of work in on our platform, and we are ready to make uploaded and outloads of different information, and our current interface is probably enough. And I would like to say that next companies are trusting us, and these are very big companies, and that's a very high work, and we secure our reputation. And I would like to ask the organizers to help for the last slide. As you can scan the QR scan and see the data of our work. Dear speakers and participants, our session has come to its end, but you can come later after the coffee break for our next session. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ivan, very much. How much time do we have? Do we have some more? No. We need to perform 2 speeches in very short form. I'm really sorry, but we can't make that. All right, colleagues, thank you very much. Thank you for the people who gave their speeches. I hope that our colleagues will meet your projects and later. Maybe after the coffee break, we will discuss our projects again. Thank you very much.